Major support for Do the Math has been provided by Chevron, the Kern County Superintendent of Schools, Edison International, Kern Schools Federal Credit Union, California Resources Corporation, Bakersfield West Rotary Stroop Family Foundation, Panama Buena Vista Union School District, Bakersfield City School District, and the Kern High School District, with additional production assistance provided by these supporters of education in Kern County and throughout the state of California.
Hey, welcome here to Math in the Real World. We are here on a beautiful Kern County morning here in the vineyards, which are a regular site here in Kern County. We want to learn a little bit how these grapes grow. We want to learn a little bit about the math that goes behind making those amazing table grapes that we all enjoy each summer. So we brought in my friend Jeff Rasmussen. Jeff, thanks so much for being with us today.
It's a pleasure to be here.
Tell us a little bit about what you do and how you make these things grow and be so delicious.
Well, I'm happy to be here. I'm real passionate about growing grapes, and so I'm an agronomist, kind of a plant doctor.
Okay.
And my job is to make sure the plants are healthy and the fruit is sweet and crunchy.
Right. So the plants get sick just like we do, and they have conditions, and you are going to go in there and figure out what's going on, right?
Yes, so I'm a licensed pest control advisor.
Okay.
So I'm licensed through the Department of Pesticide Regulations.
Uh-huh.
And so I write like a doctor prescription.
Okay.
And I have to go out and identify the pest, and then I try to figure out what is the least resistant pesticide, which was medicine for the plant.
Right.
And then I try to figure out what we can do that's least resistant to the diseases and organisms that are beneficial, and then what's obviously safe for human consumption, and then we grow premium table grapes.
Wow. And so there's so many different things I'm sure you have to take into account, right? I mean, there's weather conditions and there's soil conditions, and then there's your pests that come in, and you have funguses and all kinds of things to think about. Tell us a little bit about your background. How did you learn to do these things? And there's a degree in this, right?
Yes, there's many degrees you can get.
Okay.
And agronomy is kind of the broad. I got a horticulture degree from Cal Poly.
Okay.
And so I kind of stumbled into this, and it was a great opportunity for me to learn more and dive in deeper. And how do we use the different sciences like entomology that discovers, insects, and then plant physiology and how the plant grows and how we grow the vine and produce fruit. And then there's, pathology with all the diseases. And so there's many aspects of my job. And so there's many forms you can get into the science about how to become an agronomist.
Yeah, you can be you're like a detective each day when you come out here and take in the hints that you're given, right? The clues that you're given, and you get to solve the mystery.
Exactly, yes.
That must make it exciting and also a little bit challenging, right? Each time, if you come up against something new or maybe even an old problem that your typical methods aren't working on.
Right, and that's what I love. See, I never go to work. Each day, I'm learning something new. And I'm trying to, like a detective, right? And I'm always trying to figure out, is this a nutrient problem, or is this a disease problem, or an insect problem?
Right.
And I kind of have to predict that, and we've had weather. And so you're always kind of thinking, and that's what I love, is I'm always thinking how to be a partner with Mother Nature and just grow premium table grapes.
Right. And be able to work with all the people who are an integral part of this whole production process, right? I mean, from the beginning all the way to the end, you got to work with all the people that are around you as well.
Exactly. I'm glad you brought that up. So, yes, I have one portion of it, and then we have all this labor that's in here, and that we have to use. And in table grapes, there's a lot of labor involved.
Yeah.
And that's part of the balance where you use crews to come in, obviously to prune the vines, and then remove leaves so we get more air movement in there, and light. And so you have all of this complex systems going on, and to grow table grapes.
Yeah. Real quick, just before we get into the math part, we'll do it on our next segment, but tell us a little bit about the Farm Bureau, how you're involved, and how we got a hold of you through the Farm Bureau.
Yeah, so thank you. Yes, I'm currently past president of Kern County Farm Bureau.
Okay, right.
And so Kern County Farm Bureau is an organization that's been around for 100 years. And we're here to work with the community and farmers to handle their issues that go on within farming issues that, how do we deal with a pest? And then a lot of it is political power of understanding how do we make laws locally and statewide and work federally. So you could work on, locally, legalization of cannabis and hemp.
All right.
And then you have issues of water.
Sure, I was going to say, I'm sure there's water issues there too.
Always water,
Yeah.
and immigration and labor. So, and just being in part of the community.
Right, right. We're so glad that we got a hold of you through the Farm Bureau, and we're going to talk a little bit more specifically about the math that goes into the day-to-day operations out here in the vineyards. Oh, wow, there's so many numbers that are flying around this place to make these amazing grapes, and maybe we'll even get a chance to try some as well. Hey, we're back here, a little math in the real world. As Thomas Jefferson once said, those who labor in the earth are the children of God, if ever he had them. And so I always like being outside. Always love to be outside, to know what's going on around us, but also to know that numbers really are part of nature. And so we're really glad to have Jeff Rasmussen with us here today to show us a little bit about what he does. When we go to the grocery store, Jeff, we see these beautiful grapes, right? They're so beautiful and, of course, awfully tasty. And we don't see always what happens behind the scenes. Now, when you go to the field, you see these grapes, which are wonderful, but you also see some that are not so wonderful. So if you come across a bunch of grapes that looks like maybe some of the ones you brought here for us today, what specific attributes of those bunches of grapes are you looking at in order to diagnose the problems?
Wow, that's a lot. It's great information. So before, like I said earlier, my job is to look at plants and understand a healthy leaf versus a sick leaf.
Okay, so you're looking at that foliage first.
Right, and so in the plant, right?
Sure.
And so as us as humans, we wake up and some days we don't feel so good. So sometimes we have a cough or we're sneezing.
Yeah.
I listen to the plants with my eyes. And so I look for symptoms, right? And it could be nutrients like this one. This is a magnesium deficiency, okay? And see, as it gets worse, as your cough gets worse, it goes to your lungs. And see this margin right here, it's very patterned. So I listen to it, and that's a magnesium deficiency.
Okay.
So that's gonna affect the chlorophyll. Okay.
And as we can see, as it goes too long, it becomes brown, right?
So it goes from
dies.
chlorosis to necrosis.
Okay.
And necrosis is that crunch. Again, these are the symptoms that I'm looking for.
Right.
And then, I could use different elements in the soil to change the pH of the soil. Okay. If I have a high pH, I can reduce it, and then the mobility of the nutrients become more available.
Yeah.
Okay. And then when it comes to, that's the nutrient side. Okay. And then we look at plant symptoms. Okay. Obviously, those to the left there are healthy and beautiful. And then you move to the left, we have other issues going on. Now, this disease right here is called powdery mildew. And that spore landed there, and about 5 days it germinated and started recycling again. And if I let this disease go, it goes from one spore to here off the leaf onto the fruit, and it goes from this spore to here to that spore. Okay? What happens is the skin later on, as the grapes get bigger, they start to break down. Okay, and you can see right here this little indentation right here.
Yeah.
When that fruit was smaller, it left an indentation there. Okay, now the skin's thin and it's growing. All of a sudden it breaks apart. Then you start getting rot complexes. Okay, and then I start losing yield to the rot, and then the pickers have to clean all that out.
Right.
And so therefore we have to use what we call the tools of the pesticides.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
And so we have different types of pesticides. Some are fungicides that take care of the fungi. Then over here we have insecticides where we have mealybug. This is called vine mealybug, where you can see the stickiness, and they're really small in there. You really can't see right now, but you can't see it or feel it on the, but they're kind of, you see how my skin pulls apart right there?
Right.
It leaves a residue.
Right.
And that's their waste, and people probably won't like that eating that stickiness. So,
Yeah, probably not.
so we have to take care of that. And so my job, I write a legal document, kind of like a prescription.
Right.
Okay. And
Because
then
you can't just have random people out here trying to figure out the problems.
Right.
You have to have some training, and you
Right.
got to make sure you put the right applications. And so you actually have a prescription here.
right, and
Yeah.
so I have to know the different insecticides and fungicides. Again, I'm trying to find the least resistance that has influence on our environment and to human health.
Right.
And then I have to worry about different insecticides and not using the same class of chemistry. Then I build more problems because now I have to build a resistant of that pathogen.
Yeah. Yeah. That
So,
makes sense.
so then I have to choose which materials go into this treatment.
And you have all kinds of choices. I mean, there's so many different things you could do. So knowing what each one does and knowing specifically how much of each one to use has got to be unbelievably important.
And not that, is there something I can do physically, right? And so, it's 100 degrees today,
Yeah.
and there's chances of rain this weekend.
Oh.
And so, as you can see right here, the whiteness, and soon soon you'll see.
Yeah, let's see.
We're gonna put out a big umbrella, okay? And we'll open this plastic up, and a lot of people will see this, and we'll open this plastic up
Oh, right,
really
right.
wide.
Yeah, you see those
Okay.
vines where they have all
Yeah.
the plastic over top of them.
So not only do we use chemicals, but we also use other means to prevent rain coming in. And so this is
Okay.
what we'll use. We'll open this up, plastic up, and to protect the grapes, okay? We'll
Uh-huh.
open this all the way across.
Gotcha.
And then that way when the rain comes down, it won't affect our beautiful crops. And we'll go in a minute to see what we need to protect on this block here.
Right, right. Oh, so much wonderful information. So when we come back, we want to see a little bit more specifically about the actual grapes that are there on the vine, but also some numbers. We know that there's some numbers about the way you mix things up. Hey, we're back out here in the field, a little math in the real world. Love to be in the vineyards here with my friend Jeff. And of course, the best part about this whole deal is we get to eat grapes while we do this last part because, man, that's the ultimate goal is to make these grapes nice and healthy and delicious. We really want to talk about some numbers, though. So
Okay.
can you give us some numbers? You find a problem, you got to go and apply some chemicals or some pesticides or some fungicides, something, but you got to make sure you apply it at the right amount, right?
Yeah, so, but Scott, come on.
I gotta try these
You
out,
gotta,
no doubt.
so you notice these. You hear that crunch?
That's one of the best part. I love grapes that are nice and crunchy.
You sure? Try that again.
I better try that.
So the problem is, premium table grapes. It's about chewing good grapes.
Yeah, yeah.
So you get the punch of the calcium, okay, and that sweetness comes behind it.
So
And
the
that's-
calcium is what makes it crunchy.
No, yep,
Okay.
builds up the calcium. You'll learn that in biology,
Right.
and then the potassium is the sugar part.
Okay.
So how do I get those balances?
Yeah.
Because what happens is, I get kind of Mother Nature. If I get too much of a good thing, I start fighting. So you got calcium, magnesium are together,
Uh-huh.
but they kind of fight. But their bigger fight is with potassium.
Okay.
So you have kind of like this teeter-totter.
Yeah.
So I have to figure that out. And so we go back to this recommendation is I got to figure out, I can put on more potassium, but I kind of got to match that with the magnesium and calcium,
Okay.
right? So
So
it's-
just putting one thing on at a time would really disrupt the balance.
that's right.
Yeah.
So, but to get to the good stuff that I love is math,
Right.
because I have all this stuff and then I have to order this stuff.
Sure.
And you can see there's different packaging of this stuff. And so I may put on 42 ounces of potassium, but I may put on 25 ounces of the calcium here. And then I'll add in a fungicide, right? And that fungicide will come in different packages. Like this one comes in small containers, okay? And this one comes in 1 pound containers. So we have to figure out the math. I know the math that I put on 42 ounces of this and 6.2 ounces of that. And then I have to call someone and say, can you order this material?
Right. Right.
They're okay. But if I just give everyone in ounces, 100 ounces, that can mean different things, right?
Sure. Oh, yeah.
Because you have different packages now. Now we get into different packages.
Yeah.
So we can have fun of saying, hey, I need 3.2 ounces of Baythroid. That's a fluid, okay? And I may put on Rowley that comes in a wettable, soluble form, okay?
Okay.
I may put 5 ounces of that, but the package comes in 4 ounce containers.
Right.
So I have to make sure that I don't give them a weird package number to put in the tank, because then they can't mix it, right?
Sure.
So
yeah.
then we have, different measuring containers
Mm-hmm.
to do all that.
Yeah, man, there's so much going on here. This is kind of a neat deal. And you have to have that, like we talked about, you have to have that balance of different things. So you're putting more than one thing in a tank when you're going to go spray to make sure that balance is happening, right?
Right. And then I don't want to damage the grapes that sometimes you have incompatibility problems.
Right.
Where you have to figure those players that don't get along.
Yeah, what a real life scenario. What a real life problem that you have to solve here, because there's so many aspects to it, just like almost everything run up into real life. If you were going to suggest to a student who is really interested in agriculture, but also interested in math, maybe even being a plant doctor, what do they need to do? How do they get involved in something like
So
this?
the first thing you need to do is know what you love learning about.
Okay.
Don't worry about the specifics.
Right.
If you love growing plants, go learn about growing plants. You're not going to know for years to come what you really want to be focused in on.
Right.
I've learned a lot of things over the years of my life,
Mm-hmm.
but mostly what I love is to learn about plants and how to grow good fruit and vegetables.
Right.
That's what I love learning about.
Yeah.
And so you put all this in, and each day I keep on learning more and more about what I do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And you learn from the people around you, and you learn from the things that you're gathering from the vines, right? And you learn from maybe even some informational things that you read about. Do you have to do some constant education for yourself?
constantly learning. I still go back and I still have some of the college books that I learned,
Yeah.
and it's still like, oh, that's what that means. You still get it, and we all learn different ways.
Yeah.
And some people learn it right away, and you start putting knowledge, and that's where knowledge comes in, of putting those things in practical use.
Yeah, and you're a hands-on guy, I know. You like to get out here, get the hands a little dirty, be able to learn all about this stuff. Gosh, we're so appreciative of you spending some time with us today. I know that I learned a lot, and I know there's a lot more that goes behind those nice, crunchy, sweet grapes than just getting them at the grocery store. There's a whole lot of work that goes on out here. I'm so glad you talked about the balance. Gosh, there's so much more to learn. We'll have to come back here again soon, if nothing else, just so I can get some more grapes. That worked out pretty well, too.